Hi, everyone. It's Frances Metzman here with the free video series for better writing. Thanks again for inviting me into your home. You're invited into my home, and I hope you'll be a regular and do the whole series with me. Okay. I've been through the ringer in the publishing world, and I want to share that with you. I have 25 short stories published in literary journals, a novel and another novel coming out in June, maybe mid-June, The Cha-Cha Babes of Pelican Way, which is a mystery with lots of humor. And I want to share some of this background of my life in the publishing world. I don't want to talk too long about my credentials. I just want to say that I teach this in universities and workshops, mostly in workshops, colleges, and it's a formula I believe in deeply. I swear by it. It took me a long time to devise it, and I do call it the Frances Metzman formula for writing. Now, I got chided by one of my characters in the Cha-Cha Babes of Pelican Way, who said I was being egotistical by putting my name on the program. But let me tell you, I deserve it because I've spent a lot of time. I started writing 30 years ago, and I went to every kind of convention, conference, classes, you name it, I went. And they would see me coming in the room and roll their eyes because I asked very pointed questions. I was trying to put together a whole structure, but I was only getting bits and pieces, even from books. I'd get a little dib here, a little dab there. So I really threw myself in and did huge amount of research, spent a lot of money and a lot of time. So I have named it the Frances Metzman Formula for Writing. Now, I'm going to tell you that I promised myself really, when I finally put the structures together, that if anyone asked me about writing, I would never charge them. It would be free because I don't want anyone to go through this agony. And so I teach mostly volunteer, not always, but mostly. Now, the reason why I really want to do this is I really believe that if you can tell a story, you can write it. And that's what this whole program is about. I believe that in writing, like many other art fields, it's 30% talent and 70% work. So I'm going to expect you to work hard. Just stay with me and take notes. Fictional structure, interestingly enough, you might say, well, I'm writing a memoir. Why do I have to know fictional structure? You really do. In this new publication world, you really have to know structure of fiction because they're expecting it. In your memoir, you read the present memoirs, they read like fictions. That's what the publishers want. Even if every word is true, they want it to read like a story. And it's even happening in journalism. Now I'm going to start with discussing characterization with you because that's today's lesson. Your character is the sum of their actions. We must consider the underlying motivations of characters. We've got to know them perfectly, have them down pat. It's most important to have this information, of course, on your protagonist, who is your main character. Without dynamic characters, you won't capture a reader's attention. Try to analyze your character from childhood, teen years, how they got to adulthood. Even if you don't use any of those eras, you have to know them. You want to show your character's struggles, encounters, decisions, and their difficulties. The person might not be as they appear. You know, we have an image for the outside world, and then we have an interior world. And that's what you have to display in your character. For instance, a macho guy might be very sensitive to children and animals. Now, it's very simplistic, but it's the two different worlds that you will display in your writing after you understand your character. I'm suggesting you write a bio or a resume or whatever you want to call it. Okay, we have Roberta Ball here. Hi, Roberta. Hi, Hamadi. Thanks for dropping in. Roberta and I have talked about the structure of writing, so I'm glad she's here because I hope you caught up to some of it. Okay, but it doesn't matter because I'm saying it again. You should write a resume or a bio for your main character, your secondary characters, and only your minor characters if they are moving your story forward. These are the things you need to itemize. It's almost like a laundry list, but much more serious. You need the age, their work history, phobias and fears. What is the best quality? What are their worst qualities? What's their education level? What is the socioeconomics? What is their favorite books, their movies, sound of voice? What is the style of their language, of their expressiveness? Do they use a lot of slang, curse words, or perfect English? You want to get the handle on that. What are the goals and motivations? How do they overcome hurdles and their quirks? Overcoming hurdles is vital to your book. Every book has it, whether they're intellectual hurdles, emotional or physical, or all of the above. You want to know who their caretakers are. Remember, we're formed in very early childhood and a lot of times by the caretakers who are raising us. Are they biological parents? Are they adoptive parents? Are they single parents? And okay, so we understand that about parents. They could even be someone who went through the system of foster care. That would define who they are. Okay, now we're interested in their appearance. You can't just say, oh, you've got to work that in very carefully. Do they pass a mirror? Does somebody say, oh, I like your long hair and it's wavy? However you get it in, you're going to have to deal with their height, their weight, their health, their clothing. How do they dress? Are they couch potatoes? Do they run marathons? Do they have skills? What's the role in the story? Do they have tattoos, scars? What are their talents? What are their needs, wants, and choices? Action, whether external or internal or both, is a deciding factor in whether the book is memorable or not. Your main character, as in real life, is not perfect. He or she has flaws. Make it so the readers find them identifiable. And I can identify with some of these. Are they clumsy? Are they fearful? I'm both. Obsessive? A little. Jealous and envious? I don't think so. Passive aggressive? I hope not. I have a big mouth. Are they introverts or extroverts? Which is very important how they'll interact with other characters in the book. What are their favorite foods? What are their traumas? And what are their good experiences? What's their sexual background, their morality, their ethics, their vices? I know it's a big list, and you could probably add more, but I'm just trying to give you an overall example of a deep, deep resume about your main character especially. Now, there's something called show, don't tell, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard that before. You don't want to tell what your character is like. It's too preachy, and maybe I wouldn't believe you if you told me. But if I see your characters in action, if I can see their facial expressions, if I can see their body movements, do they look sad, haunted, depressed, happy, goofy? secretive, upbeat? The details, these will show. Do you drum your fingers? Do you jerk your knee? There are all kinds of little details that tell a person's mood and emotions. And that's what you want to use. That shows. You don't want to tell. Okay, so we're talking about digging into your character's mind. Let readers know exactly who your character is. What are they thinking? Is it different from how they're acting, which is very often the case in life? It's about life. So I suggest you worry more about imitating life. You do more about imitating life than trying to be too poetic or lyrical, especially in your first draft. You can, after you have the structure under your belt and you're working on your first draft, don't worry too much about how it's being written, except for your characters. They are the most important. Your plot, of course, is important, but your characters drive the story. Eavesdrop on the real world. Hear people's conversations. Watch their movements. Watch how they interact. Listen to how they talk on the phone. You'll hear a lot of that. Send the alimony. That's what I've heard a lot of. So, and you can do this. I know you can do it. People tell me stories all the time, and then they say, I can't write. They can. If you can tell that story, you can write it. Just stay with me for all these episodes, and I promise you will, in all probability, enhance your writing. I won't promise it, because if you don't follow it, it might not work. But if you do, I know it's a lot to absorb. So stay with me. Now, the whole thing is about writing better, beginning writing and writing better. If you want to see an example of the characters, go to my website, francismetzman.com. Those characters are more compressed. A short story is compressed. It's going to be ask you to subscribe to a short story series. And you'll be able to define more about the characters. It's usually, there's almost always one main character, and that character is very carefully developed in a short story, and it's condensed so you don't get waylaid. Look at it, dissect it, and see how these characters come to life. Okay, remember, it's francismetzman.com, and thank you for your time. I also want to mention that I will be happy to have you email me any questions you might have about writing. No personal questions, just writing questions. And it's franuc@aol.com. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, so don't hesitate. franuc@aol.com. Thanks for joining me, and good night. Hope to see you at the next session. Bye. Bye again. I'm still here.